The Raksha's monarch, thus addressed, his hands awhile together pressed, and straight before her startled eyes stood monstrous in his giant size. Then to the lady, with the lore of eloquence, he spoke once more. "Thou scarce," he cried, "hast heard aright the glories of my power and might. I born sublime in air can stand, and with these arms upheave the land. Drink the deep flood of ocean dry and death with conquering force defy, pierce the great sun with furious dart, and to her depths cleave earth apart. See, thou whom love and beauty blind, I wear each form as wills my mind." As thus he spake in burning ire, his glowing eyes were red with fire. His gentle garb aside was thrown, and all his native shape was shown. Terrific, monstrous, wild, and dread as the dark god who rules the dead, his fiery eyes in fury rolled. His limbs were decked with glittering gold. Like some dark cloud the monster showed, and his fierce breast with fury glowed. The 10-faced rover of the night, with 20 arms exposed to sight, his saintly guise aside had laid, and all his giant height displayed. Attired in robes of crimson dye, he stood and watched with angry eye the lady in her bright array resplendent as the dawn of day when from the east the sunbeams break, and to the dark-haired lady spake, "If thou would call that lord thine own, whose fame in every world is known, look kindly on my love, and be bride of a consort meet for thee. With me let blissful years be spent, for ne'er thy choice shalt thou repent. No deed of mine shall e'er displease my darling, as she lives at ease. Thy love for mortal man resign, and to a worthier lord incline. Ah, foolish lady, seeming wise in thine own weak and partial eyes, by what fair graces art thou held to Rama from his realm expelled? Misfortunes all his life attend, and his brief days are near their end. Unworthy prince, infirm of mind." A woman spoke, and he resigned his home and kingdom, and withdrew from troops of friends and retinue, and sought this forest dark, and dread by savage beasts inhabited. Thus Rav, a letter 147, urged the lady meet for love, whose words were soft and sweet. Near and more near the giant pressed, as love's hot fire inflamed his breast. The leader of the giant crew his arm around the lady threw. Thus Budha, 503, with illumined might steals ROHI letter 147 I acute s delicious light. One hand her glorious tresses grasped, one with its ruthless pressure clasped the body of his lovely prize, the Mathil dame with lotus eyes. The sylvan gods in wild alarm marked his huge teeth and ponderous arm, and from that death-like presence fled, of mountain size and towering head. Then seen was Rav, a letter 147's magic car, aglow with gold which blazed afar, the mighty car which asses drew thundering as it onward flew. He spared not harsh rebuke to chide the lady as she moaned and cried, then with his arm about her waist his captive in the car he placed. In vain he threatened, long and shrill rang out her lamentation still, "O Rama," which no fear could stay, but her dear lord was far away. Then rose the fiend, and toward the skies bore his poor helpless struggling prize, hurrying through the air above the dame, who loathed his proffered love. So might a soaring eagle bear a serpent's consort through the air. As on he bore her, through the sky she shrieked, aloud her bitter cry. As when some wretch's lips complain in agony of maddening pain. OLAKSHM, a letter 147, thou whose joy is still to do thine elder brother's will, this fiend, who all disguises wears, from Rama's side his darling tears. Thou who couldst leave bliss, fortune, all yea life itself at duty's call, dost thou not see this outrage done to hapless me, O Raghu's son? 'Tis thine, O victor of the foe, to bring the haughtiest spirit low. How canst thou such an outrage see, and let the guilty fiend go free? Ah, seldom in a moment's time comes bitter fruit of sin and crime, but in the day of harvest pain comes like the ripening of the grain. So thou whom fate and folly lead to ruin for this guilty deed, shalt die by Rama's arm ere long a dreadful death for hideous wrong. Ah, too successful in their ends are Queen Kaikeyí and her friends, when virtuous Rama, dear to fame, is mourning for his ravished dame. Ami, Ami. A long farewell to lawn and glade and forest, dell in Janisthan's wild region, where the cassia trees are bright and fair. With all your tongues to Rama say that Rav, a letter 147, bears his wife away. Farewell, a long farewell to thee, O pleasant stream Godavari, whose rippling waves are ever stirred by many a glad wild water bird. All ye to Rama's ear relate the giant's deed, and Sita's fate. O all ye gods who love this ground where trees of every leaf abound, tell Rama I am stolen hence, I pray you all with reverence. On all the living things beside that these dark boughs and coverts hide, ye flocks of birds, ye troops of deer, I call on you my prayer to hear. All ye to Rama, ear proclaim that Rav a letter 147 tears away his dame with forceful arms, his darling wife, dearer to Rama than his life. Oh, if he knew I dwelt in hell, my mighty lord, I know full well, would bring me, conqueror, back today, though Yama's self reclaimed his prey. Thus from the air, the lady sent with piteous voice her last lament, and as she wept she chanced to see the vulture on a lofty tree. As Rav, a letter 147 bore her swiftly by, on the dear bird she bent her eye, and with a voice which woe made faint renewed to him her wild complaint. O see, the king who rules the race of giants, cruel, fierce, and base. Rav a letter 147, the spoiler bears me hence the helpless prey of violence. This fiend who roves in midnight shade by thee, dear bird, can ne'er be stayed, for he is armed and fierce and strong, triumphant in the power to wrong. For thee remains one only task, to do, kind friend, the thing I ask. To Rama's ear by thee be borne how Sítá from her home is torn, and to the valiant Lakshman, a letter 147 tell the giant's deed, and what befell. Canto 50. Jatáyus. The vulture from his slumber woke, and heard the words which Sítá spoke. He raised his eye and looked on her giant ravisher. That noblest bird with pointed beak, majestic as a mountain peak, high on the tree addressed the king of giants, wisely counseling. O ten-necked lord, I firmly hold to faith and laws ordained of old, and thou, my brother, shouldst refrain from guilty deeds that shame and stain. The vulture king supreme in air, a letter 160, Ayodhyá is the name I bear. Thy captive, known by Sítá's name, is the dear consort and the dame of Rama, Dasaratha's heir who makes the good of all his care. Lord of the world in might, he vies with the great gods of seas and skies. The law he boasts to keep allows no king to touch another's spouse, and more than all, a prince's dame high honor and respect may claim. Back to the earth thy way incline, nor think of one who is not thine. Heroic souls should hold it shame to stoop to deeds which others blame, and all respect by them is shown to dames of others as their own. Not every case of bliss and gain the scriptures' holy texts explain, and subjects, when that light is dim, look to their prince and follow him. The king is bliss and profit, he is store of treasures fair to see, and all the people's fortunes spring, their joy and misery from the king. If, lord of giant race, thy mind be fickle, false, to sin inclined, how wilt thou kingly place retain? High thrones in heaven no sinners gain. The soul which gentle passions sway ne'er throws its nobler part away, nor will the mansion of the base long be the good man's dwelling place. Prince Ráma, chief of high renown, has wronged thee not in field or town. Ne'er has he sinned against thee, how canst thou resolve to harm him now? If moved by execute rp, a letter 147, a khas prayer the giant Kara sought him there, and fighting fell with baffled aim, his and not Rama, is the blame. Say, mighty lord of giants, say what fault on Rama canst thou lay? What has the world's great master done, that thou should steal his precious one? Quick, quick the Mathil dame release. Let Rama's consort go in peace, lest scorched by his terrific eye beneath his wrath thou fall and die like Vritra, when Lord Indra threw the lightning flame that smote and slew. Ah fool, with blinded eyes to take home to thy heart a venomed snake. Ah foolish eyes, too blind to see that death's dire coils entangle thee. The prudent man his strength will spare, nor lift a load too great to bear. Content is he with wholesome food which gives him life and strength renewed, but who would dare the guilty deed that brings no fame or glorious meed, where merit there is none to win, and vengeance soon o'ertakes the sin? My course of life, Pulistia's son, for 60,000 years has run. Lord of my kind, I still maintain mine old hereditary reign. I, worn by years, am older far than thou, young lord of bow and car, in coat of glittering mail encased and armed with arrows at thy waist. But not unchallenged shalt thou go, or steal the dame without a blow. Thou canst not, king, before mine eyes bear off unchecked thy lovely prize, safe as the truth of scripture bent by no close logic's argument. Stay if thy courage let thee, stay and meet me in the battle fray, and thou shalt stain the earth with gore falling as Kara fell before. Soon Rama, clothed in bark, shall smite thee, his proud foe in deadly fight, Rama, from whom have oft times fled the Daitya hosts discomfited. No power have I to kill or slay, the princely youths are far away, but soon shalt thou with fearful eye struck down beneath their arrows lie. But while I yet have life and sense, thou shalt not, tyrant, carry hence fair Sítá, Rama's honored queen, with lotus eyes and lovely mien. Whate'er the pain, whate'er the cost, though in the struggle life be lost, the will of Raghu's noblest son and Dasaratha must be done. Stay for a while, O Rav a letter 1E47, stay. 1 hour thy flying car delay, and from that glorious chariot thou shalt fall like fruit from shaken bough, for I to thee, while yet I live, the welcome of a foe will give. Canto 51. The combat. Rav a letter 1E47's red eyes in fury rolled, bright with his armlets, flashing gold, in high disdain, by passion stirred he rushed against the sovereign bird. With clash and din and furious blows of murderous battle met the foes, thus urged by winds two clouds on high meet warring in the stormy sky. Then fierce the dreadful combat raged as fiend and bird in war engaged, as if two winged mountains sped to dire encounter overhead. Keen pointed arrows thick and fast, in never-ceasing fury cast, rained hurtling on the vulture king and smote him on the breast and wing. But still that noblest bird sustained the cloud of shafts which Rav a letter 1E47 rained, and with strong beak and talons bent the body of his foeman rent. Then wild with rage the 10-necked king laid 10 swift arrows on his string. Dread as the staff of death were they, so terrible and keen to slay. Straight to his ear, the string he drew, straight to the mark the arrows flew, and pierced by every iron had the vulture's mangled body bled. One glance upon the car he bent where Sítá wept with shrill lament, then heedless of his wounds, and pain rushed at the giant king again. Then the brave vulture, with the stroke of his resistless talons, broke the giant's shafts, and bow whereon the fairest pearls and jewels shone. The monster paused, by rage unmanned. A second bow soon armed his hand, whence pointed arrows swift and true in hundreds, yea in thousands, flew. The monarch of the vultures, plied with ceaseless darts on every side, showed like a bird that turns to rest close covered by the branch-built nest. He shook his pinions to repel the storm of arrows as it fell, then with his talons snapped into the mighty bow which Rav a letter 1E47 drew. Next with terrific wing he smote so fiercely on the giant's coat, the harness, glittering with the glow of fire, gave way beneath the blow. With storm of murderous strokes he beat the harnessed asses strong and fleet, each with a goblin's monstrous face and plates of gold his neck to grace. Then on the car he turned his ire, the will-moved car that shone like fire, and broke the glorious chariot, broke the golden steps and pole and yoke. The treacherous and the silken, shade like the full moon to view displayed together with the guards who held those emblems, to the ground he felled. The royal vulture hovered o'er the driver's head, and pierced and tore with his strong beak, and dreaded claws his mangled brow and cheek and jaws. With broken car and sundered bow, his charioteer and team laid low, one arm about the lady wound, sprang the fierce giant to the ground. Spectators of the combat, all the spirits viewed the monster's fall. Lauding the vulture, every one cried with glad voice, "Well done! Well done!" But weak with length of days, at last the vulture's strength was failing fast. The fiend again essayed to bear the lady through the fields of air. But when the vulture saw him rise triumphant with his trembling prize, bearing the sword that still was left when other arms were lost or cleft, once more, impatient of repose, swift from the earth her champion rose, hung in the way the fiend would take, and thus addressing Rav a letter 1E47 spake. Thou, king of giants, rash and blind, wilt be the ruin of thy kind, stealing the wife of Rama, him with lightning scars on chest and limb. A mighty host obeys his will and troops of slaves his palace fill. His lords of state are wise and true, kinsmen has he and retinue. As thirsty travelers drain the cup, thou drinkest deadly poison up. The rash and careless fool who heeds no coming fruit of guilty deeds, a few short years of life shall see, and perish doomed to death like thee. Say, whither wilt thou fly to loose thy neck from death's entangling noose, caught like the fish that finds too late the hook beneath the treacherous bait? Never, O king, of this be sure, will Raghu's fiery sons endure terrific in their vengeful rage, this insult to their hermitage. Thy guilty hands this day have done a deed which all reprove and shun, unworthily of a noble chief, the pillage loved by coward thief. Stay, if thy heart allow thee, stay and meet me in the deadly fray. Soon shall thou stain the earth with gore, and fall as Kara fell before. The fruits of former deeds o'erpour the sinner in his dying hour, and such a fate on thee, O king, thy tyranny and madness bring. Not e'en the self-existent Lord, who reigns by all the worlds adored, would dare attempt a guilty deed which the dire fruits of crime succeed. Thus brave J a letter 1E60, AYUS, best of birds, addressed the fiend with moving words, then ready for the swift attack swooped down upon the giant's back. Down to the bone the talons went, with many a wound the flesh was rent. Such blows infuriate drivers deal their elephants with pointed steel. Fixed in his back the strong beak lay, the talons stripped the flesh away. He fought with claws and beak and wing, and tore the long hair of the king. Still as the royal vulture beat the giant with his wings and feet, swelled the fiend's lips, his body shook with furious rage too great to brook. About the Mathil dame, he cast one huge left arm and held her fast. In furious rage to frenzy fanned, he struck the vulture with his hand. Jatáyus mocked the vain assay, and rent his 10 left arms away. Down dropped the severed limbs. Anew 10 others from his body grew, thus bright with pearly radiance glide dread serpents from the hillock side. Again in wrath, the giant pressed the lady closer to his breast, and foot and fist sent blow on blow in ceaseless fury at the foe. So fierce and dire the battle, waged between those mighty champions, raged, here was the lord of giants, there the noblest of the birds of air. Thus, as his love of Rama taught, the faithful vulture strove and fought. But Rav, a letter 1E47, seized his sword, and smote his wings and side and feet and throat. At mangled side and wing he bled, he fell, and life was almost fled. The lady saw her champion lie, his plumes disdained with gory dye, and hastened to the vulture's side, grieving as though a kinsman died. The lord of Lanká's island viewed the vulture as he lay, whose back like some dark cloud was hued, his breast a paly gray like ashes, when by none renewed, the flame has died away. The lady saw with mournful eye her champion press the plain, the royal bird, her true ally whom Rav a letter 1E47s might had slain. Her soft arms locked in strict embrace around his neck she kept, and lovely with her moonbright face bent o'er her friend and wept. Canto 52. Ravan's flight. Fair as the lord of silvery rays whom every star in heaven obeys, the Mathil dame her plaint renewed o'er him by Rav a letter 1E47s might subdued. Dreams, omens, auguries foreshow our coming lot of weal and woe. But thou, my Rama, couldst not see the grievous blow which falls on thee. The birds and deer desert the brakes, and show the path my captor takes, and thus e'en now this royal bird flew to mine aid by pity stirred. Slain for my sake in death he lies, the broad-winged rover of the skies. O Rama, haste, thine aid I crave. O LKSHM a letter 1E47, why delay to save? Brave sons of old Ikshvaku, hear and rescue in this hour of fear. Her flowery wreath was torn and rent, crushed was each sparkling ornament. She with weak arms and trembling knees clung like a creeper to the trees, and like some poor deserted thing with wild shrieks made the forest ring. But swift the giant reached her side, as loud on Rama's name she cried. Fierce as grim death, one hand he laid upon her tresses, lovely braid. That touch, thou impious king, shall be the ruin of thy race and thee. The universal world in awe that outrage on the lady saw all nature shook, convulsed with dread, and darkness o'er the land was spread. The lord of day grew dark and chill, and every breath of air was still. The eternal Father of the sky beheld the crime with heavenly eye, and spake with solemn voice, the deed is done, of old decreed. Sad were the saints within the grove, but triumph with their sorrow strove. They wept to see the Mathil dame endure the outrage, scorn, and shame. They joyed because his life should pay the penalty incurred that day. Then Rav a letter 147 raised her up, and bare his captive through the fields of air, calling with accents loud and shrill on Rama, and on Lakshman a letter 147 still. With sparkling gems on arm and breast, in silk of paly amber dressed, high in the air the Mathil dame gleamed like the lightning's flashing flame. The giant, as the breezes blew upon her robes of amber hue, and round him twined that gay attire, showed like a mountain girt with fire. The lady, fairest of the fair, had wreathed a garland round her hair, its lotus petals bright and sweet rained down about the giant's feet. Her vesture, bright as burning gold, gave to the wind each glittering fold, fair as a gilded cloud that gleams touched by the day god's tempered beams. Yet struggling in the fiend's embrace, the lady with her sweet pure face, far from her lord, no longer wore the light of joy that shone before. Like some sad lily by the side of waters which the sun has dried, like the pale moon uprising through an autumn cloud of darkest hue, so was her perfect face between the arms of giant Rav, a letter 147 seen, fair with the charm of braided tress and forehead's finished loveliness, fair with the ivory teeth that shed white luster through the lips, fine red, fair as the lotus when the bud is rising from the parent flood. With faultless lip and nose and eye, dear as the moon that floods the sky with gentle light, of perfect mold, she seemed a thing of burnished gold, though on her cheek the traces lay of tears her hand had brushed away. But as the moonbeams swiftly fade ere the great day-god shines displayed, so in that form of perfect grace, still trembling in the fiend's embrace, from her beloved Rama reft, no light of pride or joy was left. The lady with her golden hue, o'er the swart fiend a lustre threw, as when embroidered girths enfold an elephant with gleams of gold. Fair as the lily's bending stem, her arms adorned with many a gem, a lustre to the fiend she lent gleaming from every ornament, as when the cloud-shot flashes light the shadows of a mountain height. Whene'er the breezes earthward bore the tinkling of the zone she wore, he seemed a cloud of darkness, hue sending forth murmurs as it flew. As on her way the dame was sped from her sweet neck fair flowers were shed, the swift wind caught the flowery rain and poured it o'er the fiend again. The wind-stirred blossoms, sweet to smell, on the dark brows of Rav a letter 147 fell, like lunar constellations set on Meru for a coronet. From her small foot an anklet fair with jewels slipped, and through the air, like a bright circlet of the flame of thunder, to the valley came. The Mathil lady, fair to see as the young leaflet of a tree clad in the tender hues of spring, flashed glory on the giant king, as when a gold-embroidered zone around an elephant is thrown. While bearing far the lady, through the realms of sky the giant flew she like a gleaming meteor, cast a glory round her as she passed. Then from each limb in swift descent dropped many a sparkling ornament. On earth they rested dim and pale like fallen stars when virtues fail. 504. Around her neck a garland lay bright as the star god's silvery ray, it fell and flashed like Ganga sent from heaven above the firmament. 505. The birds of every wing had flocked to stately trees by breezes rocked. These bowed their wind-swept heads and said, "My lady sweet, be comforted." With faded blooms each brook within whose waters moved no glamy fin, stole, sadly through the forest dell mourning, the dame it loved so well. From every woodland region near came lions, tigers, birds, and deer, and followed, each with furious look, the way her flying shadow took. For Sita's loss each lofty hill whose tears were waterfall, and rill, lifting on high each arm-like steep, seemed in the general woe to weep. When the great sun, the lord of day, saw Rav a letter 147 tear the dame away, his glorious light began to fail, and all his disk grew cold and pale. If Rav a letter 147 from the forest flies with Rama's Sita as his prize, justice and truth have vanished hence, honor and right and innocence. Thus rose the cry of wild despair from spirits as they gathered there. In trembling troops in open lawns wept, wild with woe, the startled fawns, and a strange terror changed the eyes they lifted to the distant skies. On sylvan gods who loved the Del a sudden fear and trembling fell, as in the deepest woe they viewed the lady by the fiend subdued. Still in loud shrieks was heard afar that voice, whose sweetness naught could mar, while eager looks of fear and woe she bent upon the earth below. The lady of each winning while with pearly teeth and lovely smile, seized by the lord of Lanká's isle, looked down for friends in vain. She saw no friend to aid her, none, not Rama nor the younger son of Dasaratha, and undone she swooned with fear and pain. Canto 53. Sítá's threats. Soon as the Maythil lady knew that high through air the giant flew, distressed with grief and sore, afraid her troubled spirit sank dismayed. Then, as anew the waters welled from those red eyes which sorrow swelled, forth in keen words her passion broke, and to the fierce-eyed fiend she spoke. Canst thou attempt a deed so base, untroubled by the deep disgrace, to steal me from my home and fly, when friend or guardian none was nigh? Thy craven soul that longed to steal, fearing the blows that warriors deal, upon a magic deer relied to lure my husband from my side, friend of his sire. The vulture king lies low on earth with mangled wing, who gave his aged life for me, and died for her he sought to free. Ah, glorious strength indeed is thine, thou meanest of thy giant line, whose courage dared to tell thy name and conquer in the fight a dame. Does the vile deed that thou hast done cause thee no shame, thou wicked one, a woman from her home to rend when none was near his aid to lend? Through all the worlds, O giant king, the tidings of this deed will ring, this deed in law and honors spite by one who claims a hero's might. Shame on thy boasted valor, shame. Thy prowess is an empty name. Shame, giant, on this cursed deed, for which thy race is doomed to bleed. Thou fleest swifter than the gale, for what can strength like thine avail? Stay for 1 hour, O Rav a letter 147 stay, thou shalt not flee with life away. Soon as the royal chieftain's sight falls on the thief who roams by night, thou wilt not, tyrant, live 1 hour though backed by all thy legions' power. Ne'er can thy puny strength sustain the tempest of their arrowy rain, have ere the trembling birds withstood the wild flames raging in the wood. Hear me, O Rav a letter 147, let me go, and save thy soul from coming woe. Or if thou wilt not set me free, wrath for this insult done to me, with his brave brothers aid my lord against thy life, will raise his sword. A guilty hope inflames thy breast his wife from Rama's home to rest. Ah fool, the hope thou hast is vain, thy dreams of bliss shall end in pain. If torn from all I love by thee my godlike lord no more I see, soon will I die and end my woes, nor live the captive of my foes. Ah fool, with blinded eyes to choose the evil and the good refuse. So the sick wretch with stubborn will turns fondly to the cates that kill, and madly draws his lips away from medicine that would check decay. About thy neck securely wound the deadly coil of fate is bound, and thou, O Rav a letter 147, dost not fear although the hour of death is near. With death-doomed sight thine eyes behold the gleaming of the trees of gold, see dread a letter 147 the flood that rolls a stream of foamy blood. See the dark wood by all abhorred, its every leaf a threatening sword. The tangled thickets thou shalt tread where thorns with iron points are spread. For never can thy days be long, base plotter of the shame, and wrong to Rama of the lofty soul he dies, who drinks the poisoned bowl. The coils of death around thee lie, they hold thee and thou canst not fly. Ah, whither, tyrant, wouldst thou run the vengeance of my lord to shun? By his unaided arm alone were twice 7,000 fiends o'erthrown. Yes, in the twinkling of an eye he forced thy mightiest fiends to die. And shall that lord of lion heart, skilled in the bow and spear and dart, spare thee, O fiend, in battle strife, the robber of his darling wife? These were her words, and more beside, by wrath and bitter hate supplied. Then by her woe and fear o'erthrown, she wept again and made her moan. As long she wept in grief and dread, scarce conscious of the words she said, the wicked giant onward fled and bore her through the air. As firm he held the Maythil dame, still wildly struggling, o'er her frame with grief and bitter misery came the trembling of despair. Canto 54. Lanká. He bore her on in rapid flight, and not a friend appeared in sight. But on a hill that o'er the wood raised its high top 5 monkeys stood. From her fair neck her scarf she drew, and down the glittering vesture flew, with ear-ring, necklet, chain, and gem descending in the midst of them. For these, she thought, my path may show, and tell my lord the way I go." Nor did the fiend, in wild alarm, mark when she drew from neck and arm and foot the gems and gold, and sent to earth each gleaming ornament. The monkeys raised their tawny eyes that closed not in their first surprise, and saw the dark-eyed lady, where she shrieked above them in the air. High o'er their heads, the giant passed holding the weeping lady fast. O'er Pampa's flashing flood he sped, and on to Lanká's city fled. He bore away in senseless joy the prize that should his life destroy, like the rash fool who hugs beneath his robe a snake with venomed teeth. Swift as an arrow from a bow, speeding o'er lands that lay below, sublime in air his course he took o'er wood and rock and lake and brook. He passed at length the sounding sea, where monstrous creatures wander free. Seat of Lord V. A. R. U. letter 1E47 S. ancient reign, controller of the eternal main. The angry waves were raised and tossed as Rav, a letter 1E47 with the lady crossed, and fish and snake in wild unrest showed flashing fin and gleaming crest. Then from the blessed troops who dwell in air celestial voices fell. "O ten-necked king," they cried, "attend, this guilty deed will bring thine end." Then Rav, a letter 1E47 speeding like the storm, bearing his death in human form. The struggling Sítá, lighted down in royal Lanká's glorious town, a city bright and rich, that showed well-ordered street and noble road, arranged with just division, fair with multitudes in court and square. Thus, all his journey done, he passed within his royal home at last. There in a queenly bower, he placed the black-eyed dame with dainty waist. Thus in her chamber, Maya laid the lovely Maya, demon maid. Then Rav, a letter 1E47, gave command to all the dread she-fiends who filled the hall. This captive lady watch and guard from sight of man and woman barred. But all the fair one asks beside be with unsparing hand supplied, as though twere I that asked, withhold no pearls or dress or gems or gold. And she among you, that shall dare of purpose, or through want of care one word to vex her soul to say, throws her unvalued life away. Thus spake the monarch of their race to those she-fiends who thronged the place, and pondering on the course to take went from the chamber as he spake. He saw 8 giants, strong and dread, on flesh of bleeding victims fed, proud in the boon which Brahma gave, and trusting in its power to save. He thus the mighty chiefs addressed of glorious power and strength possessed. "Arm, warriors, with the spear and bow, with all your speed from Lanká go, for Janisthan, our own no more, is now defiled with giants' gore. The seat of Kara's royal state is left unto us desolate. In your brave hearts and might confide, and cast ignoble fear aside. Go, in that desert region dwell, where the fierce giants fought and fell. A glorious host that region held, for power and might unparalleled, by Du acute Sh a letter 1E47 and brave Kara led. All, slain by Rama's arrows, bled. Hence boundless wrath that spurns control reigns paramount within my soul, and naught but Rama's death can sate the fury of my vengeful hate. I will not close my slumbering eyes, till by this hand my foeman dies. And when mine arm has slain the foe who laid those giant princes low, long will I triumph in the deed, like one enriched in utmost need. Now go, that I this end may gain in Janisthan, O chiefs, remain. Watch Rama there with keenest eye, and all his deeds and movements spy. Go forth, no helping art neglect, be brave and prompt and circumspect, and be your one endeavor still to aid mine arm this foe to kill. Oft have I seen your warrior might proved in the forehead of the fight, and sure of strength, I know so well send you in Janisthan to dwell." The giants heard with prompt assent the pleasant words he said, and each before his master bent for meet salute his head. Then as he bade, without delay, from Lanká's gate they passed, and hurried forward on their way invisible and fast. Canto 55. Sítá in prison. Thus Rav, a letter 1E47, his commandment gave to those 8 giants strong and brave, so thinking in his foolish pride against all dangers to provide. Then with his wounded heart aflame with love he thought upon the dame, and took with hasty steps the way to the fair chamber where she lay. He saw the gentle lady there weighed down by woe too great to bear, amid the throng of fiends who kept their watch around her as she wept, a pinnace sinking neath the wave when mighty winds around her rave, a lonely herd-forsaken deer, when hungry dogs are pressing near. Within the bower the giant passed, her mournful looks were downward cast. As there she lay, with streaming eyes, the giant bade the lady rise, and to the shrinking captive showed the glories of his rich abode, where 1,000 women spent their days in palaces with gold ablaze, where wandered birds of every sort, and jewels flashed in hall and court, where noble pillars charmed the sight with diamond and lazulite, and others glorious to behold with ivory, crystal, silver, gold. There swelled on high the tambour's sound, and burnished ore was bright around. He led the mournful lady where resplendent gold adorned the stair, and showed each lattice fair to see with silver work, and ivory showed his bright chambers, line on line adorned with nets of golden twine. Beyond he showed the Maythil dame his gardens bright as lightning's flame, and many a pool and lake he showed where blooms of gayest color glowed. Through all his home from view, to view the lady sunk in grief he drew. Then trusting in her heart to wake desire of all she saw, he spake. 300 million giants, all obedient to their master's call, not counting young and weak and old, serve me with spirits fierce and bold. 1,000 culled from all of these wait on the Lord, they long to please. This glorious power, this pomp and sway, dear lady, at thy feet I lay. Yea, with my life I give the whole, O dearer than my life and soul. 1,000 beauties, fill my hall, be thou my wife, and rule them all. O hear my supplication. Why this reasonable prayer deny? Some pity to thy suitor show, for love's hot flames within me glow. This isle 100 leagues in length, encompassed by the ocean's strength, would all the gods and fiends defy though led by him who rules the sky. No god in heaven, no sage on earth, no minstrel of celestial birth, no spirit in the worlds I see a match in power and might for me. What wilt thou do with Rama, him whose days are short, whose light is dim, expelled from home and royal sway, who treads on foot his weary way? Leave the poor mortal to his fate, and wed thee with a worthier mate. My timid love, enjoy with me the prime of youth before it flee. Do not 1 hour the hope retain to look on Rama's face again. For whom would wildest thought beguile to seek thee in the giant's isle? Say who is he has power to bind in toils of net the rushing wind? Whose is the mighty hand will tame and hold the glory of the flame? In all the worlds above, below, not one, O fair of form, I know who from this isle in fight could rend the lady whom these arms defend. Fair queen, o'er Lanká's island reign, sole mistress of the wide domain. Gods, rovers of the night like me, and all the world thy slaves will be. O'er thy fair brows and queenly head let consecrating balm be shed, and sorrow banished from thy breast. Enjoy my love and take thy rest. Here nevermore thy soul shall know the memory of thy former woe, and here shall thou enjoy the meed deserved by every virtuous deed. Here garlands glow of flowery twine, with gorgeous hues and scent divine. Take gold and gems and rich attire, enjoy with me thy heart's desire. There stand, of chariots far the best, the car my brother once possessed, which, victor in the stricken field, I force the Lord of gold to yield. 'Tis wide and high and nobly wrought, bright as the sun and swift as thought. Therein, O Sítá, shalt thou ride delighted by thy lover's side. But sorrow mars, with lingering trace, the splendor of thy lotus face. A cloud of woe is o'er it spread, and all the light of joy is fled. The lady, by her woe distressed, one corner of her raiment pressed to her sad cheek like moonlight clear, and wiped away a falling tear. The rover of the night renewed his eager pleading, as he viewed the lady stand like one distraught, striving to fix her wandering thought. Think not, sweet lady, of the shame of broken vows, nor fear the blame. The saints approve with favoring eyes this union knit with marriage ties. O beauty, at thy radiant feet I lay my heads, and thus entreat. One word of grace, one look I crave, have pity on thy prostrate slave. These idle words I speak are vain, wrung forth by love's consuming pain, and ne'er of Rav a letter 1E47b, it said he wooed a dame with prostrate head. Thus to the Maythil lady sued the monarch of the giant brood, and she is now mine own, he thought, in death's dire coils already caught. Canto 56. Sítá's Disdain. His words the Maythil lady heard, oppressed by woe but undeterred. Fear of the fiend she cast aside, and thus in noble scorn replied. His word of honor never stained King Dasaratha nobly reigned, the bridge of right, the friend of truth. His eldest son, a noble youth, is Rama, virtue's faithful friend, whose glories through the worlds extend. Long arms and large full eyes has he my husband, yea a god to me. With shoulders like the forest king, from old Ikshvaku's line he springs. He with his brother L a K S H M, a letter 1E47 aid, will smite thee with the vengeful blade. Hadst thou but dared before his eyes to lay thine hand upon the prize, thou stretched before his feet, hadst lain in Janisthan like Kara slain. Thy boasted rovers of the night with hideous shapes and giant might, like serpents when the feathered king swoops down with his tremendous wing, will find their useless venom fail when Rama's mighty arms assail. The rapid arrows bright with gold, shot from the bow he loves to hold, will rend thy frame from flank to flank as Ganga's waves erode the bank. Though neither god nor fiend have power to slay thee in the battle hour, yet from his hand shall come thy fate, struck down before his vengeful hate. That mighty lord will strike and end the days of life thou hast to spend. Thy days are doomed, thy life is sped like victims to the pillar led. Yea, if the glance of Rama bright with fury on thy form should light, thou scorched this day wouldst fall and die like Kama slain by Rudra's eye. 506. He who from heaven the moon could throw, or bid its bright rays cease to glow, he who could drain the mighty sea will set his darling Sítá free. Fled is thy life, thy glory, fled thy strength and power, each sense is dead. Soon Lanká, widowed by thy guilt, will see the blood of giants spilt. This wicked deed, O cruel king, no triumph, no delight will bring. Thou with outrageous might, and scorn a woman from her lord hast torn. My glorious husband far away, making heroic strength his stay, dwells with his brother, void of fear in D, a letter 1E47 letter 1E0D, a K forest lone and drear. No more in force of arms confide, that haughty strength, that power and pride my hero with his arrowy rein from all thy bleeding limbs will drain. When urged by fate's dire mandate, nigh comes the fixed hour for men to die. Caught in death's toils, their eyes are blind, and folly takes each wandering mind. So for the outrage thou hast done, the fate is near thou canst not shun, the fate that on thyself and all thy giants and thy town shall fall. I spurn thee. Can the altar dight with vessels for the sacred rite, or which the priest his prayer has said, be sullied by an outcast's tread? So me, the consort dear and true of him who clings to virtue too, thy hated touch shall ne'er defile, base tyrant lord of Lanká's isle. Can the white swan who floats in pride through lilies by her consort's side, look for one moment, as they pass, on the poor diver in the grass? This senseless body waits thy will, to torture, chain, to wound or kill. I will not, king of giants, strive to keep this fleeting soul alive, but never shall they join the name of Sítá with reproach and shame. Thus as her breast with fury burned her bitter speech, the dame returned. Such words of rage and scorn, the last she uttered, at the fiend she cast. Her taunting speech the giant heard, and every hair with anger stirred. Then thus with fury in his eye he made in threats his fierce reply. Hear, Maithil lady, hear my speech, list to my words and ponder each. If o'er thy head 12 months shall fly, and thou thy love wilt still deny, my cooks shall mince thy flesh with steel, and serve it for my morning meal. Thus with terrific threats to her spake Rav, a letter 1E47, cruel Ravana. Mad with the rage her answer woke, he called the fiendish train and spoke. Take her, ye Rakshas dames, who fright with hideous form and mean the sight, who make the flesh of men your food, and let her pride be soon subdued. He spoke, and at his word, the band of fiendish monsters raised each hand in reverence to the giant king, and pressed round Sítá in a ring. Rav, a letter 1E47 once more with stern behest to those she, fiends his speech addressed, shaking the earth beneath his tread, he stamped his furious foot and said, To the Asoka garden bear the dame, and guard her safely there, until her stubborn pride be bent by mingled threat and blandishment. See that ye watch her well and tame, like some she-elephant the dame. They led her to that garden where the sweetest flowers perfumed the air, where bright trees bore each rarest fruit, and birds, enamored, ne'er were mute. Bowed down with terror and distress, watched by each cruel giantess, like a poor solitary deer when ravening tigresses are near. The hapless lady lay distraught like some wild thing but newly caught, and found no solace, no relief from agonizing fear and grief, not for one moment could forget each terrifying word and threat, or the fierce eyes upon her set by those who watched around. She thought of Rama far away. She mourned for Lakshman, a letter 1E47, as she lay in grief and terror and dismay, half fainting on the ground. Canto 57. Sítá comforted. Soon as the fiend had set her down within his home in Lanká's town triumph, and joy filled Indra's breast, whom thus the eternal sire addressed. This deed will free the worlds from woe and cause the giants' overthrow. The fiend has borne to Lanká's isle the lady of the lovely smile, true consort born to happy fate with features fair and delicate. She looks and longs for Rama's face, but sees a crowd of demon race, and guarded by the giants' train pines for her lord and weeps in vain. But Lanká, founded on a steep, is girdled by the mighty deep, and how will Rama know his fair and blameless wife is prisoned there? She on her woe will sadly brood and pine away in solitude, and heedless of herself, will cease to live, despairing of release. Yes, pondering on her fate, I see her gentle life in jeopardy. Go, Indra, swiftly seek the place, and look upon her lovely face. Within the city make thy way, let heavenly food her spirit stay. Thus Brahma spake, and he who slew the cruel demon Paka flew where Lanká's royal city lay, and sleep went with him on his way. Sleep, cried the heavenly monarch, close each giant's eye in deep repose. Thus Indra spoke, and sleep fulfilled with joy his mandate. As he willed to aid the plan the gods proposed, the demons' eyes in sleep she closed. Then Sachai's lord, the thousand-eyed, to the Asoka garden hied. He came and stood where Sítá lay, and gently thus began to say, Lord of the gods, who hold the sky dame of the lovely smile, am I. Weep no more, lady, weep no more, thy days of woe will soon be o'er. I come, O Janak's child, to be the helper of thy lord and thee. He through my grace, with hosts to aid, this sea-girt land will soon invade. Teased by my art, that slumbers close the eyelids of thy giant foes. Now I, with sleep, this place have sought, Vidhan lady, and have brought a gift of heaven's ambrosial food to stay thee in thy solitude. Receive it from my hand, and taste, O lady of the dainty waist, for countless ages thou shalt be from pangs of thirst and hunger free. But doubt within her bosom woke, as to the Lord of gods she spoke. How may I know for truth that thou whose form I see before me, now art verily the king adored by heavenly gods, and Sachai's lord? With Raghu's sons, I learnt to know the certain signs which Godhead show. These marks before mine eyes display, if o'er the gods thou bear the sway. The heavenly Lord of Sachai heard, and did according to her word. Above the ground his feet were raised, with eyelids motionless he gazed. No dust upon his raiment lay, and his bright wreath was fresh and gay. Nor was the lady's glad heart slow the monarch of the gods to know, and while the tears unceasing ran from her sweet eyes, she thus began. My lord has gained a friend in thee, and I this day thy presence see shown clearly to mine eyes, as when Rama and Lakshman, a letter 1E47, lords of men, beheld it, and their sire the king, and Janak too from whom I spring. Now I, O monarch of the blessed, will eat this food at thy behest, which thou hast brought me, of thy grace, to aid and strengthen Raghu's race. She spoke, and by his words relieved, the food from Indra's hand received, yet ere she ate the balm he brought, on Lakshman, a letter 1E47, and her lord she thought. If my brave lord be still alive, if valiant Lakshman, a letter 1E47 yet survive, may this my taste of heavenly food bring health to them and bliss renewed. She ate, and that celestial food stayed hunger, thirst, and lassitude, and all her strength restored. Great joy her hopeful spirit stirred at the glad tidings, newly heard of Lakshman, a letter 1E47, and her lord. And Indra's heart was joyful too. He bade the Maithil dame adieu, his saving errand done. With sleep beside him parting, thence he sought his heavenly residence to prosper Raghu's son. Canto 58. The brothers meeting. When Rama's deadly shaft had struck the giant in the seeming buck, the chieftain turned him from the place, his homeward way again to trace. Then, as he hastened onward, fain to look upon his spouse again, behind him from a thicket nigh rang out a jackal's piercing cry. Alarmed he heard the startling shriek that raised his hair and dimmed his cheek, and all his heart was filled with doubt as the shrill jackal's cry rang out. Alas, some dire disaster seems portended by the jackal's screams. Oh, may the Maythil dame be screened from outrage of each hungry fiend. Alas, if LKSHM, a letter 1E47 chanced to hear that bitter cry of woe and fear what time Maricha, as he died, with voice that mocked my accents cried, swift to my side, the prince would flee and quit the dame to succor me. Too well I see the demon band the slaughter of my love have planned. Me far from home and Sítás, view the seeming dear Maricha drew. He led me far through brake and dell till wounded by my shaft he fell, and as he sank rang out his cry, "Oh save me, LKSHM, a letter 1E47, or I die." May it be well with both who stayed in the great wood with none to aid, for every fiend is now my foe for Janisthan's great overthrow, and many an omen seen today has filled my heart with sore dismay. Such were the thoughts and sad surmise of Ráma at the jackal's cries, and all his heart within him burned as to his cot his steps he turned. He pondered on the deer that led his feet to follow where it fled, and sad with many a bitter thought his home in Janisthan he sought. His soul was dark with woe and fear when flocks of birds and troops of deer move round him from the left, and raised discordant voices as they gazed. The omens which the chieftain viewed the terror of his soul renewed, when lo, to meet him LKSHM, a letter 1E47 sped with brows whence all the light had fled. Near and more near the princes came, each brother's heart, and looked the same. Alike on each sad visage lay the signs of misery and dismay. Then Ráma by his terror moved his brother for his fault reproved in leaving Sítá far from aid in the wild wood where giants strayed. LKSHM, a letter 1E47's left hand he took, and then in gentle tones the prince of men, though sharp and fierce their tenor ran, thus to his brother chief began. O LKSHM, a letter 1E47, thou art much to blame leaving alone the Maythil dame, and flying hither to my side. Oh, may no ill my spouse betide. But I know my wife is dead, and giants on her limbs have fed, so strange, so terrible are all the omens which my heart appall. O LKSHM, a letter 1E47, may we yet return the safety of my love to learn. To find the child of Janak still alive and free from scathe and ill. Each bird with notes of warning screams, though the hot sun still darts his beams. The moan of deer, the jackal's yell of some o'erwhelming misery tell. O mighty brother, still may she, my princess, live from danger free. That semblance of a golden deer allured me far away. I followed nearer and more near, and longed to take the prey. I followed where the quarry fled, my deadly arrow flew, and as the dying creature bled, the giant met my view. Great fear and pain oppress my heart that dreads the coming blow, and through my left eye keenly dart the throbs that herald woe. ALKSHM, a letter 1E47, all these signs dismay my soul that sinks with dread. I know my love is torn away, or haply she is dead. Canto 59. Ráma's return. When Ráma saw his brother stand with none beside him, all unmanned, eager he questioned why he came so far without the Maythil dame. Where is my wife, my darling, she who to the wild wood followed me? Where hast thou left my lady, where the dame who chose my lot to share? Where is my love who balms my woe as through the forest wilds I go, unkinged and banished and disgraced, my darling of the dainty waist? She nerves my spirit for the strife, only she gives zest to life. Dear as my breath is she who vies in charms with daughters of the skies. If Janak's child be mine no more, in splendor fair as virgin ore, the lordship of the skies and earth to me were prize of little worth. Lives she yet, the Maythil dame, dear as the soul within this frame? Oh, let not all my toil be vain, the banishment, the woe and pain. Oh, let not dark Kaikeyí win the guerdon of her treacherous sin if, Sítá lost, my days I end, and thou without me homeward wend. Oh, let not good Ayodhyá shed her bitter tears to mourn me dead, nor her proud rivals Hest obey strong in her son and queenly sway. Back to my cot will I repair if Sítá live to greet me there, but if my wife have perished, I reft of my love will surely die. O LKSHM, a letter 1E47, if I seek my cot, look for my love and find her not sweet welcome with her smile to give, I tell thee, I will cease to live. O answer, let thy words be plain. Lives Sítá yet, or is she slain? Didst thou thy sacred trust betray, till ravening giants seized the prey? Ah me, so young, so soft and fair, lapped in all bliss, untried by care. Rent from her own dear husband, how will she support her misery now? That voice, O Lakshman, a letter 1E47 smote thine ear, and filled, I ween, thy heart with fear, when on thy name for succor cried the treacherous giant ere he died. That voice too like mine own, I ween, was heard by the Vidhin queen. She bade thee seek my side to aid, and quickly was the hest obeyed. But ah, thy fault I needs must blame, to leave alone the helpless dame, and let the cruel giants sate the fury of their murderous hate. Those blood-devouring demons all grieve in their souls for Kara's fall, and Sítá, none to guard her side, torn by their cruel hands has died. I sink, O tamer of thy foes, deep in the sea of whelming woes. What can I now? I must endure the mighty grief that mocks at cure. Thus all his thoughts on Sítá bent, to Janisthan the chieftain went, hastening on with eager stride, and Lakshman, a letter 1E47 hurried by his side. With toil and thirst and hunger worn, his breast with doubt and anguish torn, he sought the well-known spot. Again he turned to chide with quivering lips which terror dried. He looked and found her not. Within his leafy home he sped, each pleasant spot he visited where oft his darling strayed. "'Tis as I feared," he cried, and there, yielding to pangs too great to bear, he sank by grief dismayed. Canto 60. Lakshman reproved. But Rama ceased not to upbraid his brother for untimely aid, and thus, while anguish wrung his breast, the chief with eager question pressed. Why, Lakshman, a letter 1E47, didst thou hurry hence and leave my wife without defense? I left her in the wood with thee, and deemed her safe from jeopardy. When first thy form appeared in view, I marked that Sítá came not too. With woe my troubled soul was rent, prophetic of the dire event. Thy coming steps afar I spied, I saw no Sítá by thy side, and felt a sudden throbbing dart through my left eye, and arm, and heart. Lakshman, a letter 1E47, with fortune's marks impressed, his brother mournfully addressed. Not by my heart's free impulse led, leaving thy wife to thee I sped, but by her keen reproaches sent, O Rama, to thine aid I went. She heard afar a mournful cry, O save me, Lakshman, a letter 1E47, or I die. The voice that spoke in moving tones smote on her ear and seemed thine own. Soon as those accents reached her ear, she yielded to her woe and fear. She wept o'ercome by grief, and cried, Fly, Lakshman, a letter 1E47, fly to Rama's side. Though many a time she bade me speed, her urgent prayer I would not heed. I bade her in thy strength confide, and thus with tender words replied. No giant roams the forest shade from whom thy lord need shrink dismayed. No human voice, believe me, spoke those words thy causeless fear that woke. Can he whose might can save in woe the heavenly gods e'er stoop so low, and with those piteous accents call for succor like a caitiff thrall? And why should wandering giants choose the accents of thy lord to use, in alien tones my help to crave, and cry aloud, O Lakshman, a letter 1E47 save. Now let my words thy spirit cheer, compose thy thoughts and banish fear. In hell, in earth, or in the skies there is not, and there cannot rise a champion whose strong arm can slay thy Rama in the battle fray. To heavenly hosts he ne'er would yield though Indra led them to the field. To soothe her, thus I vainly sought, her heart with woe was still distraught. While from her eyes the waters ran her bitter speech she thus began. Too well I see thy dark intent, thy lawless thoughts on me are bent. Thou hopest, but thy hope is vain to win my love, thy brother slain. Not love, but Bharat's dark decree to share his exile counseled thee, or hearing now his bitter cry thou surely to his aid wouldst fly. For love of me, a stealthy foe thou choos'st by his side to go, and now thou longest that my lord should die, and wilt no help afford. Such were the words the lady said, with angry fire my eyes were red. With pale lips quivering in my rage I hastened from the hermitage. He ceased, and frenzied by his pain the son of Raghu spoke again. O brother, for thy fault I grieve, the Maithil dame alone to leave. Thou knowest that my arm is strong to save me from the giant throng, and yet couldst leave the cottage, spurred to folly by her angry word. For this thy deed I praise thee not, to leave her helpless in the cot, and thus thy sacred charge forsake for the wild words a woman spake. Yea, thou art all to blame herein, and very grievous is thy sin. That anger swayed thy faithless breast, and made thee false to my behest. An arrow speeding from my bow has laid the treacherous giant low, who lured me eager for the chase far from my hermit dwelling place. The string with easy hand I drew, the arrow as in pastime flew, the wounded quarry bled. The borrowed form was cast away, before mine eye a giant lay with bright gold braceleted. My arrow smote him in the chest, the giant by the pain distressed raised his loud voice on high. Far rang the mournful sound. Mine own, it seemed, were accent, voice, and tone, they made thee leave my spouse alone and to my rescue fly. Canto 61. Rama's Lament. As Rama sought his leafy cot through his left eye keen throbbing shot, his wanted strength his frame forsook, and all his body reeled and shook. Still on those dreadful signs he thought, sad omens with disaster fraught, and from his troubled heart he cried, "Oh, may no ill my spouse betide." Longing to gaze on Sita's face, he hastened to his dwelling place, then sinking 'neath his misery's weight, he looked and found it desolate. Tossing his mighty arms on high he sought her with an eager cry. From spot to spot, he wildly ran each corner of his home to scan. He looked, but Sita was not there. His cot was desolate and bare, like streamlet in the winter frost, the glory of her lilies lost. With leafy tears the sad trees wept as a wild wind their branches swept. Mourned bird and deer, and every flower drooped fainting round the lonely bower. The sylvan deities had fled the spot where all the light was dead, where hermit coats of skin displayed, and piles of sacred grass were laid. He saw, and maddened by his pain, cried in lament again, again. Where is she, dead or torn away, lost, or some hungry giant's prey? Or did my darling chance to rove for fruit, and blossoms though the grove? Or has she sought the pool or rill, her pitcher from the wave to fill? His eager eyes on fire with pain, he roamed about with maddened brain. Each grove and glade he searched with care, he sought, but found no Sita there. He wildly rushed from hill to hill, from tree to tree, from rill to rill, as bitter woe his bosom rent, still Rama roamed with fond lament. O sweet Kadamba, say, has she who loved thy bloom been seen by thee? If thou have seen her face most fair, say, gentle tree, I pray thee where? O bell tree with thy golden fruit round as her breast, no more be mute. Where is my radiant darling, gay in silk that mocks thy glossy spray? O Arjun, say, where is she now who loved to touch thy scented bough? Do not thy graceful friend forget, but tell me, is she living yet? Speak, Basil, thou must surely know, for like her limbs thy branches show, most lovely in thy fair array of twining plant and tender spray. Sweet Tila, fairest of the trees, melodious with the hum of bees, where is my darling Sita, tell, the dame who loved thy flowers so well? Asoka, act thy gentle part, named Heartsease, 507, give me what thou art, to these sad eyes my darling show, and free me from this load of woe. O palm, in rich ripe fruitage dressed round as the beauties of her breast, if thou have heart to know and feel, my peerless consort's fate reveal. Hast thou, roseapple, chanced to view my darling bright with golden hue? If thou have seen her quickly speak, where is the dame I wildly seek? O glorious Cassia, thou art gay with all thy loveliest bloom today, where is my dear who loved to hold in her full lap thy flowery gold? To many a tree and plant beside, to jasmine, mango, sal, he cried. Say, hast thou seen, O gentle dear, the fawn-eyed Sita wandering here? It may be that my love has strayed to sport with fawns beneath the shade. If thou, great elephant, have seen my darling of the lovely mien, whose rounded limbs are soft and fine as is that lissom trunk of thine, O noblest of wild creatures, show where is the dame thou needs must know. O tiger, hast thou chanced to see my darling? Very fair is she, cast all thy fear away, declare, where is my moon-faced darling, where? There, darling of the lotus eye, I see thee, and 'tis vain to fly, wilt thou not speak, dear love? I see thy form half hidden by the tree. Stay if thou love me, Sita, stay in pity cease thy heartless play. Why mock me now? Thy gentle breast was never prone to cruel jest. 'Tis vain behind yon bush to steal, thy shimmering silks thy path reveal. Fly not, mine eyes pursue thy way, for pity's sake, dear Sítá, stay. Ami, Ami, my words are vain, my gentle love is lost or slain. How could her tender bosom spurn her husband on his home return? Ah no, my love is surely dead, fierce giants on her flesh have fed, rending the soft limbs of their prey, when I her lord was far away. That moonbright face, that polished brow, red lips, bright teeth, what are they now? Alas, my darling's shapely neck she loved with chains of gold to deck. That neck that mocked the sandal scent, the ruthless fiends have grasped and rent. Alas, 'twas vain those arms to raise soft, as the young tree's tender sprays. Ah, dainty meal for giants' lips were arms and quivering fingertips. Ah, she who counted many a friend was left for fiends to seize and rend, was left by me without defense from ravening giants' violence. OLAKSHM, a letter 147 of the arm of might, say, is my darling love in sight. O dearest Sítá, where art thou? Where is my darling consort now? Thus, as he cried in wild lament from grove to grove, the mourner went. Here for a moment sank to rest, then started up and onward pressed. Thus roaming on like one distraught still for his vanished love he sought. He searched in wood and hill and glade, by rock and brook and wild cascade. Through groves with restless step he sped, and left no spot unvisited. Through lawns and woods of vast extent, still searching for his love he went with eager steps and fast. For many a weary hour he toiled, still in his fond endeavor foiled, yet hoping to the last. Canto 62. Rama's Lament. When all the toil and search was vain, he sought his leafy home again. 'Twas empty still, all scattered lay the seats of grass in disarray. He raised his shapely arms on high and spoke aloud with bitter cry. Where is the Maythil dame? He said. Oh, whither has my darling fled? Who can have borne away my dame, or feasted on her tender frame? If, Sítá, hidden by some tree, thou joyous still to mock at me, cease thy cruel sport, and take compassion, or my heart will break. Bethink thee, love, the gentle fawns with whom thou playest on the lawns, impatient for thy coming wait with streaming eyes disconsolate. Reft of my love, I needs must go hence to the shades weighed down by woe. The king our sire will see me there, and cry, O perjured Rama, where is thy faith, that thou canst speed from exile ere the time decreed? Ah Sítá, whither hast thou fled, and left me here disquieted, a hapless mourner, reft of hope, too feeble with my woe to cope? E'en thus indignant glory flies the wretch, who stains his soul with lies. If thou, my love, art lost to view, I in my woe must perish too. Thus Rama by his grief distraught wept for the wife he vainly sought, and LAKSHM, a letter 147 whose fraternal breast longed for his weal, the chief addressed whose soul gave way beneath the pain when all his eager search was vain, like some great elephant who stands sinking upon the treacherous sands. Not yet, O wisest chief, despair renew thy toil with utmost care. This noble hill, where trees are green, has many a cave and dark ravine. The Maythil lady day by day delighted in the woods to stray deep in the grove she wanders still, or walks by blossom-covered rill, or fish-loved river, stealing through tall clusters of the dark bamboo. Or else the dame with arch design to prove thy mood, O prince, and mine, far in some sheltering thicket lies to frighten ere she meet our eyes. Then come, renew thy labor, trace the lady to her lurking place, and search the wood from side to side to know where Sítá loves to bide. Collect thy thoughts, O royal chief, nor yield to unavailing grief. Thus LAKSHM, a letter 147, by attention stirred, to fresh attempts his brother spurred. And Rama, as he ceased, began with LAKSHM, a letter 147, essayed each spot to scan. In eager search their way they took through wood, o'er hill, by pool and brook, they roamed each mount, nor spared to seek on ridge and crag and towering peak. They sought the dame in every spot, but all in vain, they found her not. Above, below, on every side they ranged the hill, and Rama cried, O LAKSHM, a letter 147, O my brother, still no trace of Sítá on the hill. Then LAKSHM, a letter 147, as he roamed the wood beside his glorious brother stood, and while fierce grief his bosom burned, this answer to the chief returned. Thou, Rama, after toil and pain wilt meet the Maythil dame again, As Vish letter 147 U, Bali's might subdued, his empire of the earth renewed. 508. Then Rama cried in mournful tone, his spirit by his woe o'erthrown. The wood is searched from side to side, no distant spot remains untried, no lilied pool, no streamlet where the lotus buds are fresh and fair. Our eyes have searched the hill with all his caves and every waterfall, but not yet I find my wife, more precious than the breath of life. As thus he mourned his vanished dame, a mighty trembling seized his frame, and by o'erpouring grief assailed, his troubled senses reeled and failed. Too great to bear his misery grew, and many a long hot sigh he drew, then as he wept and sobbed and sighed, "O Sítá, O my love," he cried. Then Lakshman a letter 147, joining palm to palm, tried every art his woe to calm. But Rama in his anguish heard, or heeded not one soothing word, still for his spouse he mourned, and shrill rang out his lamentation still. Canto 63. Rama's Lament. Thus for his wife in vain he sought. Then, his sad soul with pain distraught, the hero of the lotus eyes filled all the air with frantic cries. O'erpoured by love's strong influence, he his absent wife still seemed to see, and thus with accents weak and faint renewed with tears his wild complaint. "Thou, fairer than their bloom, my spouse, art hidden by Asoka boughs. Those blooms have power to banish care, but now they drive me to despair. Thine arms are like the plantain stem, why let the plantain cover them? Thou art not hidden, love, thy feet betray thee in thy dark retreat. Thou runnest in thy girlish sport to flowery trees, thy dear resort. But cease, O cease, my love, I pray, to vex me with thy cruel play. Such mockery in a holy spot, where hermits dwell, beseems thee not. Now I see thy fickle mind to scornful mood, too much inclined. Come, large-eyed beauty, I implore, lone is the cot so dear before. No, she is slain by giants, they have stolen or devoured their prey, or surely at my mournful cry, my darling to her lord would fly. O Lakshman a letter 147, see those troops of deer, in each sad eye there gleams a tear. Those looks of woe too clearly say my consort is the giant's prey. O noblest, fairest of the fair, where art thou, best of women, where? This day will dark Kaikeyí find fresh triumph for her evil mind, when I, who with my Sítá came, return alone, without my dame. But ne'er can I return to see those chambers, where my queen should be, and hear the scornful people speak of Rama as a coward weak. For mine will be the coward's shame, who let the foeman steal his dame. How can I seek my home, or brook upon Vidha's king to look? How listen when he bids me tell, my wanderings o'er, that all is well? He, when I meet his eager view, will mark that Sítá comes not too, and when he hears the mournful tale, his wildered sense will reel and fail. O Dasaratha, will he cry, blessed in thy mansion in the sky. Ne'er to that town my steps shall bend, that town which Bharat's arms defend, for e'en the blessed homes above would seem a waste without my love. Leave me, my brother, here, I pray, to fair Ayodhyá bend thy way. Without my love, I cannot bear to live 1 hour in blank despair. Round Bharat's neck thy fond arms twine, and greet him with these words of mine. Dear brother, still the power retain, and o'er the land as monarch reign. With salutation next incline before thy mother, his and mine. Still, brother, to my words attend, and with all care each dame befriend. To my dear mother's ear relate my mournful tale, and Sítá's fate. Thus Rama gave his sorrow vent, and from a heart which anguish rent, mourned for his wife in loud lament. Her of the glorious hair, from Lakshman a letter 147's cheek the color fled, and o'er his heart came sudden dread, sick, faint, and sore disquieted by woe too great to bear. Canto 64. Rama's Lament. Reft of his love, the royal chief, weighed down beneath his whelming grief, desponding made his brother share his grievous burden of despair. Over his sinking bosom rolled the flood of sorrow uncontrolled. And as he wept and sighed, in mournful accents faint and slow with words congenial to his woe. To Lakshman a letter 147 thus he cried. Brother, I ween, beneath the sun, of all mankind there lives not one so full of sin, whose hand has done such cursed deeds as mine. For my sad heart with misery bleeds, as, guerdon of those evil deeds, still greater woe to woe succeeds in never-ending line. A life of sin I freely chose, and from my past transgression flows a ceaseless flood of bitter woes my folly to repay. The fruit of sin has ripened fast, through many a sorrow have I passed, and now the crowning grief at last falls on my head today. From all my faithful friends I fled, my sire is numbered with the dead, my royal rank is forfeited, my mother far away. These woes on which I sadly think fill, till it raves above the brink, the stream of grief in which I sink, the flood which naught can stay. Ne'er, brother, ne'er have I complained, though long by toil and trouble pained, without a murmur I sustain the woes of woodland life. But fiercer than the flames that rise when crackling wood the food supplies, flashing aglow through evening skies, this sorrow for my wife. Some cruel fiend has seized the prey and torn my trembling love away, while, as he bore her through the skies, she shrieked aloud with frantic cries, in tones of fear which, wild and shrill, retained their native sweetness still. Ah me, that breast so soft and sweet, for sandals precious perfume meet, now all detained with dust and gore, shall meet my fond caress no more. That face, whose lips with tones so clear made pleasant music, sweet to hear, with soft locks plaited o'er the brow, some giant's hand is on it now. It smiles not, as the dear light fails when Rahu's jaw the moon assails. Ah, my true love! That shapely neck she loved with fairest chains to deck, the cruel demons rend, and drain the lifeblood from each mangled vein. Ah, when the savage monsters came and dragged away the helpless dame, the lady of the long soft eye called like a lamb with piteous cry. Beneath this rock, OLAKSHM a letter 1E47, see my peerless consort sat with me, and gently talked to thee the while, her sweet lips opening with a smile. Here is that fairest stream which she loved ever, bright Godavari. Ne'er can the dame have passed this way, so far alone she would not stray, nor has my darling, lotus-eyed, sought lilies by the river's side, for without me she ne'er would go to streamlets where the wild flowers grow. Tell me not, brother, she has strayed to the dark forest's distant shade where blooming boughs are gay and sweet, and bright birds love the cool retreat. Alone my love would never dare, my timid love, to wander there. O Lord of Day, whose eye sees all we act and plan, on the eye call for naught is hidden from thy sight. Great witness thou of wrong and right. Where is she, lost or torn away? Dispel my torturing doubt and say. And O thou wind who blowest free, the worlds have not concealed from thee. List to my prayer, reveal one trace of her, the glory of her race. Say, is she stolen hence or dead, or do her feet the forest tread? Thus with disordered senses, faint with woe he poured his sad complaint, and then, a better way to teach, wise LAKSHM a letter 1E47 spoke in seemly speech. Up, brother dear, thy grief subdue, with heart and soul thy search renew. When woes oppress and dangers threat brave effort ne'er was fruitless yet. He spoke, but Rama gave no heed to valiant LAKSHM, a letter 1E47's prudent reed. With double force, the flood of pain rushed o'er his yielding soul again. Canto 65. Rama's wrath. With piteous voice by woe subdued, thus Raghu's son his speech renewed. Thy steps, my brother, quickly turn to bright Godavari, and learn if Sítá to the stream have hied to cull the lilies on its side. Obedient to the words he said, his brother to the river sped. The shelving banks he searched in vain, and then to Rama turned again. I searched but found her not, he cried. I called aloud, but none replied. Where can the Maithil lady stray, whose sight would chase our cares away? I know not where, her steps untraced, roams Sítá of the dainty waist. When Rama heard the words he spoke again, he sank beneath the stroke, and with a bosom anguish fraught himself, the lovely river sought. There standing on the shelving side, O Sítá, where art thou? He cried. No spirit voice an answer gave, no murmur from the trembling wave of sweet Godavari declared the outrage which the fiend had dared. O speak, the pitying spirits cried, but yet the stream their prayer denied, nor dared she, coldly mute, relate to the sad chief his darling's fate of Rav, a letter 1E47's awful form she thought, and the dire deed his arm had wrought, and still withheld by fear dismayed, the tale for which the mourner prayed. When hope was none, his heart to cheer, that the bright stream his cry would hear while sorrow for his darling tore his longing soul he spake once more. Though I have sought with tears and sighs Godarvari no word replies, oh say, what answer can I frame to Janak, father of my dame? Or how before her mother stand leading no Sítá by the hand? Where is my loyal love, who went forth with her lord to banishment? Her faith to me she nobly held though from my realm and home expelled. A hermit, nursed on woodland fair, she followed still and soothed my care. Of all my friends am I bereft, nor is my faithful consort left. How slowly will the long nights creep while, comfortless, I wake and weep. Oh, if my wife may yet be found, with humble love I'll wander round this Janisthan. Pr a execute R a V, a letter 1E47 S hill, Mandakini's delightful rill. See how the deer with gentle eyes look on my face and sympathize. I mark their soft expression, each would soothe me, if it could, with speech. Oh, while the anxious throng he eyed. And where's Sítá where? He cried. Thus, while hot tears his utterance, broke the morning sun of Raghu spoke. The deer in pity for his woes, obeyed the summons and arose. Upon his right they stood, and raised their sad eyes up to heaven, and gazed each to that quarter bent her look which Rav, a letter 1E47 with his captive took. Then Raghu's son again they viewed, and toward that point their way pursued. Then Lakshman Shm, a letter 1E47 watched their looks intent as moaning on their way they went, and marked each sign which struck his sense with mute expressive influence. Then as again his sorrow woke thus to his brother chief he spoke. Those dear thy eager question heard and rose at once by pity stirred. See, in thy search their aid they lend, see, to the south their looks they bend. Arise, dear brother, let us go the way their eager glances show, if haply sign or trace discreet our footsteps in the search may guide. The son of Raghu gave assent, and quickly to the south they went, with eager eyes the earth he scanned, and Lakshman Shm, a letter 1E47 followed close at hand. As each to other spake his thought, and round with anxious glances sought, scattered before them in the way, blooms of a fallen garland lay. When Rama saw that flowery rain he spoke once more with bitterest pain. O Lakshman Shm, a letter 1E47 every flower that lies here on the ground I recognize. I culled them in the grove, and there my darling twined them in her hair. The sun, the earth, the genial breeze have spared these flowers my soul to please. Then to that woody hill he prayed, whence flashed afar each wild cascade. O best of mountains, hast thou seen a dame of perfect form and mien in some sweet spot with trees o'ergrown, my darling whom I left alone? Then, as a lion threats a deer, he thundered with a voice of fear. Reveal her, mountain, to my view with golden limbs and golden hue. Where's my darling Sítá? Speak before I rend the peak from peak. The mountain seemed her track to show, but told not all he sought to know. Then Dasaratha's son renewed his summons as the mount he viewed. Soon as my flaming arrows fly, consumed to ashes shall thou lie without a herb or bud or tree, and birds no more shall dwell in thee. And if this stream my prayer deny, my wrath this day her flood shall dry, because she lends no aid to trace my darling of the lotus face. Thus Rama spake as though his ire would scorch them with his glance of fire. Then searching farther on the ground the footprint of a fiend he found, and small light traces here and there, where Sítá in her great despair, shrieking for Rama's help, had fled before the giant's mighty tread. His careful eye each trace surveyed which Sítá and the fiend had made, the quivers and the broken bow and ruined chariot of the foe, and told, distraught by fear and grief, his tidings to his brother chief. O Lakshman Shm, a letter 1E47 here, he cried, behold my Sítá's earrings dropped with gold. Here lie her garlands torn and rent, here lies each glittering ornament. Oh look, the ground on every side with blood-like drops of gold is dyed. The fiends who wear each strange disguise have seized, I ween, the helpless prize. My lady, by their hands o'erpoured, is slaughtered, mangled, and devoured. Methinks two fearful giants came, and waged fierce battle for the dame. Whose Lakshman Shm, a letter 1E47, was this mighty bow with pearls and gems in glittering row. Cast to the ground the fragments lie, and still their glory charms the eye. A bow so mighty sure was planned for heavenly god or giant's hand. Whose was this coat of golden mail which, though its luster now is pale, shone like the sun of morning, bright with studs of glittering lazulite. Whose LKSHM, a letter 1E47, was this bloom-wreathed shade with all its 100 ribs displayed. This screen, most meet for royal brow, with broken staff lies useless now. And these tall asses, goblin-faced, with plates of golden harness graced, whose hideous forms are stained with gore, who is the lord whose yoke they bore? Whose was this pierced and broken car, that shoots a flame like blaze afar? Whose these spent shafts at random spread, each fearful with its iron head, with golden mountings fair to see, long as a chariot's axle-tree? These quivers see, which, wren and twain, their sheaves of arrows still contain. Whose was this driver? Dead and cold, his hands the whip and reins still hold. See LKSHM, a letter 1E47. Here the foot I trace of man, nay, one of giant race. The hatred that I nursed of old grows mightier, now 100-fold against these giants, fierce of heart, who change their forms by magic art. Slain, eaten by the giant press, or stolen is the Vaders, nor could her virtue bring defense to Sítá seized and hurried hence. Oh, if my love be slain, or lost all hope of bliss, for me is crossed. The power of all the worlds were vain, to bring one joy to soothe my pain. The spirits with their blinded eyes would look in wonder, and despise the Lord who made the worlds, the great Creator when compassionate. And so, I ween, the immortals turn cold eyes upon me now, and spurn the weakling prompt at pity's call, devoted to the good of all. But from this day behold me changed, from every gentle grace estranged. Now be it mine all life to slay, and sweep these cursed fiends away. As the great sun leaps up the sky, and the cold moonbeams fade and die, so vengeance rises in my breast, one passion conquering all the rest. Gandharvas in their radiant place, the Yakshas, and the giant race, Kinnars and men shall look in vain for joy they ne'er shall see again. The anguish of my great despair, OLKSHM, a letter 1E47, fills the heaven and air, and I in wrath all life will slay within the triple world today. Unless the gods in heaven who dwell restore my Sítá safe and well, I, armed with all the fires of fate, the triple world will devastate. The troubled stars from heaven shall fall, the moon be wrapped in gloomy pall, the fire be quenched, the wind be stilled, the radiant sun grow dark and chilled, crushed every mountain's towering pride, and every lake and river dried, dead every creeper, plant and tree, and lost for aye the mighty sea. Thou shalt the world this day behold in wild disorder, uncontrolled, with dying life, which not defends from the fierce storm my bowstring sends. My shafts this day, for Sítá's sake, the life of every fiend shall take. The gods this day shall see the force that wings my arrows on their course, and mark how far that course is held, by my unsparing wrath impelled. No god, not one of Daida's strain, goblin or rakshas shall remain. My wrath shall end the worlds, and all demons and gods therewith shall fall. Each world which gods, the Danav race, and giants make their dwelling place, shall fall beneath my arrows sent in fury when my bow is bent. The arrows loosened from my string confusion on the worlds shall bring. For she is lost or breathes no more, nor will the gods my love restore. Hence all on earth with life and breath, this day I dedicate to death. All till my darling they reveal, the fury of my shafts shall feel. Thus as he spake by rage impelled, red grew his eyes, his fierce lips swelled. His bark coat round his form he drew and coiled his hermit braids anew, like Rudra when he yearned to slay the demon Tripur, 509 in the fray. So looked the hero brave and wise, the fury flashing from his eyes. Then Rama, conqueror of the foe, from LKSHM, a letter 1E47's hand received his bow, strained the great string, and laid thereon a deadly dart that flashed and shone, and spake these words as fierce in ire as he who ends the worlds with fire. As age and time and death and fate all life with checkless power await, so LKSHM, a letter 1E47 in my wrath today my vengeful might shall brook no stay. Unless this day I see my dame in whose sweet form is not to blame. Yea, as before, my love behold fair with bright teeth and perfect mold, this world shall feel a deadly blow destroyed with ruthless overthrow, and serpent lords and gods of air Gandharvas, men, the doom shall share. Canto 66. Lakshman's speech. He stood incensed with eyes of flame, still mourning for his ravished dame, determined, like the fire of fate, to leave the wide world desolate. His ready bow the hero eyed, and as again he sighed, the triple world would fain consume like Hara, 510 in the day of doom. Then Lakshman, a letter 1E47 moved with sorrow viewed his brother in unwonted mood, and reverent palm to palm applied, thus spoke with lips which terror dried, thy heart was ever soft and kind, to every creature's good inclined. Cast not thy tender mood away, nor yield to anger's mastering sway. The moon for gentle grace is known, the sun has splendor all his own, the restless wind is free and fast, and earth in patience unsurpassed. So glory with her noble fruit is thine eternal attribute. Oh, let not, for the sin of one, the triple world be all undone. I know not who's this car that lies in fragments here before our eyes, nor who the chiefs who met and fought, nor what the prize the foemen sought, who marked the ground with hoof and wheel, or whose the hand that plied the steel which left this spot, the battle o'er, thus sadly died with drops of gore. Searching with utmost care I view the signs of one and not of two. Where'er I turn mine eyes, I trace no mighty host about the place. Then mete not out for one offense this all-involving recompense. For kings should use the sword they bear, but mild in time should learn to spare thou, ever moved by misery's call, wast the great hope and stay of all. Throughout this world, who would not blame this outrage on thy ravished dame? Gandharvas, Danavs, gods, the trees, the rocks, the rivers, and the seas, can ne'er in aught thy soul offend, as one whom holiest rights befriend. But him who dared to steal the dame pursue, O king, with ceaseless aim, with me, the hermits, holy band, and thy great bow to arm thy hand by every mighty flood will seek each wood, each hill from base to peak. To the fair homes of gods we'll fly, and bright Gandharvas in the sky until we reach, where'er he be, the wretch who stole thy spouse from thee. Then if the gods will not restore thy Sítá when the search is o'er, then, royal lord of Kozel's land, no longer hold thy vengeful hand. If meekness, prayer, and right be weak to bring thee back the dame we seek up, brother, with a deadly shower of gold-bright shafts thy foes o'erpour, fierce as the flashing levin sent from King Mahendra's firmament. Canto 67. Rama appeased. As Rama, pierced by sorrow's sting, lamented like a helpless thing, and by his mighty woe distraught was lost in maze of troubled thought, Sumitra's son with loving care consoled him in his wild despair. And while his feet he gently pressed with words like these the chief addressed. For sternest vow and noblest deed was Dasaratha blessed with seed. Thee for his son the king obtained, like Amrit by the gods regained. Thy gentle graces won his heart, and all too weak to live apart the monarch died, as Burrit told, and lives on high mid-gods enrolled. If thou, O Rama, wilt not bear this grief which fills thee with despair, how shall a weaker man e'er hope, infirm and mean, with woe to cope? Take heart, I pray thee, noblest chief, what man who breathes is free from grief? Misfortunes come and burn like flame, then fly as quickly as they came. Yadi son of Nahush, reigned with Indra on the throne he gained. But falling for a light offense, he mourned awhile the consequence. Via execute ish letter 1E60h, a reverend saint and sage, priest of our sire from youth to age, begot 100 sons, but they were smitten in a single day. 511 and she, the queen whom all revere, the mother whom we hold so dear, the earth herself not seldom feels fierce fever when she shakes and reels. And those twin lights, the world's great eyes, on which the universe relies, does not eclipse at times assail their brilliance till their fires grow pale. The mighty powers, the immortal blessed bend to a law which none contest. No god, no bodied life is free from conquering fate's supreme decree. E'en sacra self must reap the meed of virtue and of sinful deed. And O great Lord of men, wilt thou helpless beneath thy misery bow? No, if thy dame be lost or dead, O hero, still be comforted, nor yield forever to thy woe ormestered like the mean and low. Thy peers, with keen far-reaching eyes, spend not their hours in ceaseless sighs. In dire distress, in whelming ill their manly looks are hopeful still. To this, great chief, thy reason bend, and earnestly the truth propend. By reason's aid, the wisest learn the good and evil to discern. With sin and goodness scarcely known, faint light by checkered lives is shown. Without some clear undoubted deed, we mark not how the fruits succeed. In time of old, O thou most brave, to me thy lips such counsel gave. V letter 1E5b, IH a SP a T I 512, can scarcely find new wisdom to instruct thy mind. For thine is wit, and genius high meet for the children of the sky. I rouse that heart benumbed by pain, and call to vigorous life again. Be manly godlike vigor shown, put forth that noblest strength, thine own. Strive, best of old Ikshvaku's strain strive, till the conquered foe be slain. Where is the profit, or the joy, if thy fierce rage the worlds destroy? Search till thou find the guilty foe, then let thy hand no mercy show. Canto 68. Jatáyus. Thus faithful L, a K, S, H, M, a letter 1E47 strove to cheer the prince with counsel wise and clear. Who, prompt to seize the pith of all, let not that wisdom idly fall. With vigorous effort, he restrained the passion in his breast that reigned, and leaning on his bow for rest his brother L, a K, S, H, M, a letter 1E47 thus addressed. How shall we labor now, reflect, whither again our search direct? Brother, what plan canst thou devise to bring her to these longing eyes? To him by toil and sorrow tried the prudent L, a K, S, H, M, a letter 1E47 thus replied. Come, though our labor yet be vain, and search through Janus Thon again, a realm where giant foes abound, and trees and creepers hide the ground. For there are caverns deep and dread, by deer and wild birds tenanted, and hills with many a dark abyss, grotto and rock and precipice. There bright Gandharvas love to dwell, and Kinnars in each bosky dell. With me thy eager search to aid be every hill and cave surveyed. Great chiefs like thee, the best of men, endowed with sense and piercing ken, though tried by trouble never fail, like rooted hills that mock the gale. Then Rama, pierced by anger's sting, laid a keen arrow on his string, and by the faithful L, a K, S, H, M, a letter 1E47 S side, roamed through the forest far and wide. J, a letter 1E60, Ayus there with blood drops dyed, lying upon the ground he spied, huge as a mountain's shattered crest, mid all the birds of air the best. In wrath the mighty bird he eyed, and thus the chief to L, a K, S, H, M, a letter 1E47 cried. Ami, these signs the truth betray, my darling was the vulture's prey. Some demon in the birds, disguise roams through the wood that round us lies. On large-eyed Sítá he is fed, and rests him now with wings outspread. But my keen shafts, whose flight is true, shall pierce the ravenous monster through. An arrow on the string he laid, and rushing near the bird surveyed, while earth to ocean's distant side trembled beneath his furious stride. With blood and froth on neck and beak the dying bird essayed to speak, and with a piteous voice, distressed, thus Dasaratha's son addressed. She whom like some sweet herb of grace thou seekest in this lonely place, fair lady, is fierce Rav, a letter 1E47 S prey, who took, beside my life away. LKSHM, a letter 1E47, and thou had parted hence, and left the dame without defense. I saw her swiftly borne away by Rav, a letter 1E47, S might which none could stay. I hurried to the lady's aid, I crushed his car and royal shade, and putting forth my warlike might hurled Rav, a letter 1E47 to the earth in fight. Here Rama lies his broken bow, here lie the arrows of the foe. There on the ground, before thee are the fragments of his battle car. There bleeds the driver, whom my wings beat down with ceaseless buffetings. When toil my age strength subdued, his sword my weary pinions hewed. Then lifting up the dame, he bare his captive through the fields of air. Thy vengeful blows from me restrain, already by the giant slain. When Rama heard the vulture tell the tale that proved his love so well, his bow upon the ground he placed, and tenderly the bird embraced. Then to the earth he fell o'erpoured, and burning tears both brothers showered, for double pain and anguish pressed upon the patient hero's breast. The solitary bird he eyed who in the lone wood gasped and sighed, and as again his anguish woke, thus Rama to his brother spoke. Expelled from power the woods I tread, my spouse is lost, the bird is dead. A fate so sad, I ween, would tame the vigor of the glorious flame. If I to cool my fever tried to cross the deep from side to side, the sea, so hard my fate, would dry his waters as my feet came nigh. In all this world there lives not one so cursed as I beneath the sun, So strong a net of misery cast around me holds the captive fast. Best of all birds that play the wing, loved, honored by our sire the king, the vulture, in my fate enwound, lies bleeding, dying on the ground. Then Rama and his brother, stirred by pity, mourned the royal bird, and, as their hands his limbs caressed, affection for a sire expressed. And Rama to his bosom strained the bird, with mangled wings disdained, with crimson blood drops dyed. He fell, and shedding many a tear, "Where is my spouse than life more dear? Where is my love?" he cried. Canto 69. The death of Jatáyus. As Rama viewed with heartfelt pain the vulture whom the fiend had slain, in words with tender love, impressed his brother chief, he thus addressed. "This royal bird with faithful thought for my advantage strove and fought. Slain by the fiend in mortal strife for me, he yields his noble life. See Lakshman, a letter 1E47, how his wounds have bled, his struggling breath will soon have fled. Faint is his voice, and near to die, he scarce can lift his trembling eye. A letter 1E60 Ayodhyá, if thou still can speak, give the answer that I seek. The fate of ravished Sítá tell, and how thy mournful chance befell. Say why the giant stole my dame, what have I done that he could blame? What fault in me has Rav, a letter 1E47 seen, that he should rob me of my queen? How looked the lady's moonbright cheek? What were the words she found to speak? His strength, his might, his deeds declare, and tell the form he loves to wear. To all my questions make reply, where does the giant's dwelling lie?" The noble bird his glances bent on Rama as he made lament, and in low accents faint and weak with anguish thus began to speak. "Fierce Rav, a letter 1E47, king of giant race, stole Sítá from thy dwelling place. He calls his magic art to aid with wind and cloud and gloomy shade. When in the fight my power was spent, my wearied wings he cleft and rent. Then round the dame his arms he threw, and to the southern region flew. O Raghu's son, I gasp for breath, my swimming sight is dim in death. E'en now before my vision pass bright trees of gold with hair of grass. The hour the impious robber chose brings on the thief a flood of woes. The giant in his haste forgot 'twas Vinda's hour, 513, or heeded not. Those robbed at such a time obtain their plundered store and wealth again. He, like a fish that takes the bait, in briefest time shall meet his fate. Now be thy troubled heart controlled, and for thy lady's loss consoled, for thou wilt slay the fiend in fight, and with thy dame have new delight." With senses clear, though sorely tried, the royal vulture thus replied, while, as he sank beneath his pain, forth rushed the tide of blood again. Him, 514, brother of the Lord of Gold, Visrava's self begot of old. Thus spoke the bird, and stained with gore resigned the breath that came no more. "Speak, speak again." Thus Rama cried, with reverent palm to palm applied, but from the frame the spirit fled and to the ski regions sped. The breath of life had passed away. Stretched on the ground the body lay. When Rama saw the vulture lie, huge as a hill, with darksome eye, with many a poignant woe distressed his brother chief, he thus addressed. "Amid these haunted shades content, full many a year this bird has spent. His life and home of giants past. In D, a letter 1E47, letter 1E0D, a K wood he dies at last. The years in lengthened course have fled untroubled o'er the vulture's head, and now he lies in death, for none the stern decrees of fate may shun. See LKSHM, a letter 1E47, how the vulture fell while for my sake he battled well, and strove to free with onset bold my Sítá from the giant's hold. Supreme amid the vulture kind, his ancient rule the bird resigned, and conquered in the fruitless strife, gave for my sake his noble life. OLKSHM, a letter 1E47, many a time we see great souls who keep the law's decree, with whom the weak sure refuge find, in creatures of inferior kind. The loss of her, my darling queen, strikes with a pang less fiercely keen than now this slaughtered bird to see who nobly fought and died for me. As Dasaratha, good and great, was glorious in his high estate, honored by all, to all endeared, so was this royal bird revered. Bring fuel for the funeral rite. These hands the solemn fire shall light, and on the burning pyre shall lay the bird who died for me today. Now on the gathered wood shall lie the lord of all the birds that fly, and I will burn with honors due my champion, whom the giant slew. O royal bird of noblest heart, graced with all funeral rites, depart to bright celestial seats above, rewarded for thy faithful love. Dwell in thy happy home with those whose constant fires of worship rose. Live blessed amid the unyielding brave, and those who land in largesse gave. Sore grief upon his bosom weighed, as on the pyre the bird he laid, and bade the kindled flame ascend to burn the body of his friend. Then with his brother by his side, the hero to the forest hied. There many a stately deer he slew, the flesh around the bird to strew. The venison into balls he made, and on fair grass before him laid. Then that the parted soul might rise and find free passage to the skies, each solemn word and text, he said which Brahmins utter o'er the dead. Then hastening went the princely pair to bright Godavari, and their libations of the stream they poured in honor of the vulture lord, with solemn ritual to the slain, as scripture's holy texts ordain. Thus offerings to the bird they gave, and bathed their bodies in the wave. The vulture monarch having wrought a hard and glorious feat, honored by Rama sage in thought, soared to his blissful seat. The brothers, when each rite was paid to him of birds supreme, their hearts with new-found comfort stayed, and turned them from the stream. Like sovereigns of celestial race within the wood they came, each pondering the means to trace the captor of the dame. Canto 70. Cabinta. When every rite was duly paid, the princely brothers onward strayed, and eager in the lady's quest, they turned their footsteps to the west. Through lonely woods that round them lay, Ikshvaku's children made their way, and armed with bow and shaft and brand pressed onward to the southern land. Thick trees and shrubs and creepers grew in the wild grove they hurried through. 'Twas dark and drear and hard to pass for tangled thorns and matted grass. Still onward with a southern course, they made their way with vigorous force, and passing through, the mazes stood beyond that vast and fearful wood. With toil and hardship yet unspent 3 leagues from Janisthan they went, and speeding on their way at last within the wood of Krancha, 515, passed, a fearful forest wild and black as some huge pile of cloudy wrack, filled with all birds and beasts, where grew bright blooms of every varied hue. On Sítá bending, every thought through all the mighty wood they sought, and at the lady's loss, dismayed here for a while, and there they stayed. Then turning farther eastward, they pursued 3 leagues their weary way, past Krancha's wood, and reached the grove where elephants rejoiced to rove. The chiefs that awful wood surveyed, where deer and wild birds filled each glade, where scarce a step the foot could take for tangled shrub and tree and brake. There in a mountain's woody side, a cave the royal brothers spied, with dread abysses deep as hell, where darkness never ceased to dwell. When, pressing on, the lords of men stood near the entrance of the den, they saw within the dark recess a huge misshapen giantess, a thing the timid heart that shook with fearful shape and savage look. Terrific fiend, her voice was fierce, long were her teeth to rend and pierce. The monster gorged her horrid feast of flesh of many a savage beast, while her long locks, at random flung, disheveled o'er her shoulders hung. Their eyes the royal brothers raised, and on the fearful monster gazed. Forth from her den she came and glanced at Lakshman a letter 1E47 as he first advanced, her eager arms to hold him spread, and come and be my love, she said, then as she held him to her breast, the prince in words like these addressed. Behold thy treasure fond and fair, Ayodhyá, 516, the name I bear. In thickets of each lofty hill, on islets of each brook and rill, with me delighted shalt thou play, and live for many a lengthened day. Enraged he heard the monster woo, his ready sword he swiftly drew, and the sharp steel that quelled his foes cut through her breast and ear and nose. Thus mangled by his vengeful sword in rage and pain the demon roared, and hideous with her awful face sped to her secret dwelling place. Soon as the fiend had fled from sight, the brothers, dauntless in their might, reached a wild forest dark and dread whose tangled ways were hard to tread. Then bravest Lakshman, a letter 1E47, virtuous youth, the friend of purity and truth, with reverent palm to palm applied thus to his glorious brother cried. My arm presaging throbs amain, my troubled heart is sick with pain, and cheerless omens ill portend where my anxious eyes I bend. Dear brother, hear my words. Advance resolved and armed for every chance, for every sign I mark today foretells a peril in the way. This bird of most ill-omened note, loud screaming with discordant throat announces, with a warning cry that strife and victory are nigh. Then, as the chiefs their search pursued throughout the dreary solitude, they heard, amazed, a mighty sound that broke the very trees around, as though a furious tempest passed crushing the wood beneath its blast. Then Rama raised his trusty sword, and both the hidden cause explored. There stood before their wondering eyes a fiend broad-chested, huge of size. A vast misshapen trunk they saw in height, surpassing nature's law. It stood before them dire and dread, without a neck, without a head. Tall as some hill aloft in air, its limbs were clothed with bristling hair, and deep below the monster's waist, his vast misshapen mouth was placed. His form was huge, his voice was loud as some dark-tinted thunder cloud. Forth from his ample chest there came a brilliance as of gushing flame. Beneath long lashes, dark and keen, the monster's single eye was seen. Deep in his chest, long, fiercely bright, it glittered with terrific light. He swallowed down his savage fare of lion, bird, and slaughtered bear, and with huge teeth exposed to view o'er his great lips his tongue he drew. His arms unshapely, vast and dread, a league in length, he raised and spread. He seized with monstrous hands a herd of deer, and many a bear and bird. Among them all he picked and chose, drew forward these, rejected those. Before the princely pair, he stood barring their passage through the wood. A league of shade the chiefs had passed when on the fiend their eyes they cast. A monstrous shape, without a head, with mighty arms before him spread, they saw that hideous trunk appear that struck the trembling eye with fear. Then, stretching to their full extent his awful arms with fingers bent, round Raghu's princely sons he cast each grasping limb and held them fast. Though strong of arm and fierce in fight, each armed with bow and sword to smite, the royal brothers, brave and bold, were helpless in the giant's hold. Then Raghu's son, heroic still, felt not a pang his bosom thrill, but young, with no protection near, his brother's heart was sad with fear, and thus with trembling tongue he said to Rama, sore disquieted, Ami, Ami, my days are told, O see me in the giant's hold. Fly, son of Raghu, swiftly flee, and thy dear self from danger free. Me to the fiend an offering give, fly, at thine ease thyself and live. Thou, great Kekut's the son, I ween wilt find ere long thy Maithil queen, and when thou holdest, throned again, thine old hereditary reign, with servants prompt to do thy will, O think upon thy brother still. As thus the trembling LAKSHM a letter 1E47 cried, the dauntless Rama thus replied, Brother, from causeless dread forbear. A chief like thee should scorn despair. He spoke to soothe his wild alarm, then fierce Ayodhyá, 517 long of arm among the Danavs, 518 first and best, the sons of Raghu thus addressed. What men are you, whose shoulders show broad as a bull with sword and bow, who roam this dark and horrid place, brought by your fate before my face? Declare by what occasion led these solitary wilds you tread, with swords and bows and shafts to pierce, like bulls whose horns are strong and fierce. Why have you sought this forest land, where wild with hunger's pangs I stand? Now, as your steps my path have crossed, esteem your lives already lost. The royal brothers heard with dread the words which fierce Ayodhyá said. And Rama to his brother cried, whose cheek by blanching fear was dried. Alas, we fall, O valiant chief, from sorrow into dire grief, still mourning her I hold so dear we see our own destruction near. Mark, brother, mark what power his time o'er all that live, in every clime. Now, Lord of men, thyself and me involved in fatal danger see. 'Tis not, be sure, the might of fate that crushes all with deadly weight. Ne'er can the brave and strong, who know the use of spear and sword and bow, the force of conquering time withstand, but fall like barriers built of sand. Thus in calm strength which naught could shake the son of Dasaratha spake, with glory yet unstained upon Sumitra's son he bent his eyes, and firm in his intent his dauntless heart maintained. Canto 71. Ayodhyá's speech. Ayodhyá saw each chieftain stand imprisoned by his mighty hand, which like a snare around him pressed, and thus the royal pair addressed. Why, warriors, are your glances bent on me whom hungry pangs torment? Why stand with wildered senses? fate has brought you now my motisate. When Lakshman, a letter 1E47 heard, a while appalled, his ancient courage he recalled, and to his brother by his side with seasonable counsel cried. This vilest of the giant race will draw us to his side apace. Come, rouse thee, let the vengeful sword smite off his arms, my honored lord. This awful giant, vast of size, on his huge strength of arm relies, and o'er the world victorious, thus with mighty force would slaughter us. But in cold blood to slay, O king, discredit on the brave would bring, as when some victim in the right shuns not the hand upraised to smite. The monstrous fiend, to anger stirred, the converse of the brothers heard. His horrid mouth he opened wide, and drew the princes to his side. They, skilled due time and place, to note unsheathed their glittering swords and smote, till from the giant's shoulders they had hewn the mighty arms away. His trenchant falchion Ráma plied and smote him on the better side, while valiant Lakshman, a letter 1E47 on the left, the arm that held him prisoned cleft. Then to the earth dismembered fell the monster with a hideous yell, and like a cloud's his deep roar went through earth and air and firmament. Then as the giant's blood flowed fast, on his cleft limbs his eye he cast, and called upon the princely pair their names and lineage to declare. Him then the noble Lakshman, a letter 1E47, blessed with fortune's favoring marks, addressed, and told the fiend his brother's name and the high blood of which he came. Ikshvaku's heir here Ráma stands, illustrious through 100 lands. I, younger brother of the heir, O fiend, the name of Lakshman, a letter 1E47 bear. His mother stole his realm away, and drove him forth in woods to stray. Thus through the mighty forest he roamed with his royal wife and me. While glorious as a god he made his dwelling in the greenwood shade, some giant stole away his dame, and seeking her we hither came. But tell me who thou art, and why with headless trunk that towered so high, with flaming face beneath thy chest, thou least crushed in wild unrest. He heard the words that Lakshman, a letter 1E47 spoke, and memory in his breast awoke, recalling Indra's words to mind he spoke in gentle tones and kind. O welcome best of men, are ye whom, blessed by fate, this day I see. A blessing on each trenchant blade, that low on earth these arms has laid. Thou, Lord of men, incline thine ear the story of my woe to hear, while I the rebel pride declare which doomed me to the form I wear. Canto 72. Cabined his tale,